Oh, hello, good afternoon, adventurers. I would like to do a little yapping today, a little talking your ears off about adventuring gear. This was spurred on by some rogue shenanigans that I will get to in a moment, but kind of just snowballed into wanting to talk about items in general. They are all arranged in the Player's Handbook 2024 as an alphabetical list, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It is useful to be able to find things by name. My brain likes to organize things into groups, so I'm going to kind of be doing that today. That's one of the things, that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons I'm making this video, to kind of clump things together in ways that may be easier to parse and help you out, because no one has made this video for me to help me parse things out, so I figured I might as well do it myself. And I want to be clear, I'm talking specifically about adventuring gear, as it appears in the Player's Handbook on page 222 and onward, not about weapons or armor, mounts, vehicles, that sort of thing, specifically adventuring gear. I want to start with a question that's been burning in my mind since before the 2024 rules even came out, because they still applied back in 2014, the packs that are available, groups of adventuring gear that you get as part of your starting equipment, or you can also just purchase them separately later on as well. Do they contain the exact right amount of gear that costs the gold piece price that they cost? And the answer is yes, for the most part. There are a couple minor exceptions, but let's back up a step and go over what they are in the first place. There are 7 in the game. They are the Explorers Pack and Dungeoneers Pack. These are the 2 that most classes have access to at the start of the game. The Burglars Pack, which rogues can get. The Entertainers Pack for bards. The Diplomats Pack. The Priests Pack, likely for clerics. And the Scholars Pack, probably for wizard types. 5 out of these 7 have the exact same gold piece cost as the stuff they're made of. That being backpacks, bedrolls, torches, that kind of thing. Except for the Diplomats Pack, which costs 39 gold pieces, but actually has 40 gold pieces worth of gear in it. I think the developers may have written in 2 map or scroll cases instead of 1, as these cost 1 gold piece, but whatever the case, you get a little more bang for your buck. 1 gold piece isn't enough to really worry about. It's not enough to pull shenanigans with as far as trying to make money off of these. Remember, you sell things for half of their value, so you can't just game that extra 1 gold piece really at all. And the other exception is the Scholars Pack, which costs 40 gold pieces, but is worth 40 gold pieces and 2 copper pieces. Basically $40.02. One of the items included in it is a pen, an ink pen, as it's called in the Player's Handbook, which is worth 2 copper pieces, so I think they just had it in there as an extra, because it also includes ink, and ink wouldn't be useful without a pen, unless you plan on doing some finger painting. But the important bit is we can rest assured that if we're buying one of these packs, we are getting our money's worth. They aren't discounted at all for being grouped up, but they also don't cost any extra. Now, if you're excited to hear about that rogue stuff I was mentioning a moment ago, don't worry, I'm not going to make you wait any longer. There are 4 items in the Player's Handbook that require ability checks to successfully use. Those being the chain and the rope, which can be used to bind enemies that have the grappled, restrained, or incapacitated conditions. That requires, with a chain, a DC 13 athletics check, and with a rope, a DC 10 sleight of hand check. The others being the grappling hook, which requires a DC 13 acrobatics check to rope something within 50 feet of yourself, and manacles, which require a DC 13 sleight of hand check to slap them on somebody with those same conditions. Many of you probably already know, but at level 7, rogues get a feature called Reliable Talent. That allows them to, when they roll an ability check with a skill that they're proficient in, and they roll less than a 10 on the d20, they can count it as a 10, and then add modifiers, and that's the result of the check. That means that any rogue with at least 10 in the requisite ability score, not hard to get, and proficiency at level 7 proficiency bonus is +3, can automatically make those ability checks for these items. Every single time. Reliably, you could say. And even if we dump strength, for example, and we try to chain somebody with a -1 modifier from having 8 strength and +3 bonus from proficiency, we don't quite make that 13 with reliable talent, but once we reach level 9 and our proficiency bonus goes up to +4, that problem fixes itself. That's already awesome, but we can go even deeper. Thief rogues, starting right away when they get the subclass at level 3, can use the utilize action, which is what we do with those 4 items, as a bonus action, meaning we can tie people up, manacle them, throw a grappling hook as a bonus action if we want to. We can double up if we want, and use 2 of those things on the same turn. In addition to those 4 items, there are also a bunch of other things that utilize the utilize action that don't require rolls, those being ball bearings, caltrops, hunting traps, bell, signal whistle, those being ball bearings and caltrops, spreading them on the floor, hunting traps, setting those also on the floor, I suppose, the bell and signal whistle to signal our allies of events happening, oil, dumping it on the floor, not throwing it at creatures. We'll get to that part in a minute. Iron spikes, string, the climber's kit, if we're climbing around on stuff, and the healer's kit. These, as well as the 4 above that we use with ability checks, all use the utilize action. So at level 3, Thief Rogues can use them as bonus action. It is worth noting that if we pour oil onto a surface and we're planning on lighting it on fire with a tinderbox, tinderboxes already use a bonus action, so we're going to want to use our action to pour the oil out. If we're intending to ignite the oil with a cantrip or some other means using our action, then we have the option to use a bonus action to pour it on the floor. This all also means that a Thief Rogue can grapple with their attack action and then slap some manacles on a person or tie them up in a chain or a rope with their bonus action, reliably starting at level 7. Technically, you could bind them in all 3 of those things, just not with the same bonus action. I doubt I'd be the first to make a rogue build video that takes advantage of this little trick, but let me know in the comments nonetheless if you'd like to see it. I've got one brewing up here. And before we move on, there's one more trick to discuss. The healer's kit can use the utilize action to stabilize a creature instead of making a medicine check to do the same. We can use medicine reliably. That check is only ever DC 10, so automatic success starting at level 7 as long as we're proficient with medicine, but the healer's kit can be done as an action by Thief Rogues and doesn't have the roll anyway. But we can push them even further beyond. The healer origin feat gives us the feature Battle Medic, which reads, if you have a healer's kit, you can expend 1 use of it and tend to a creature within 5 feet of yourself as a utilize action. That creature can expend 1 of its hit point dice, and you then roll that die. The creature regains hit points equal to the roll plus your proficiency bonus. Thief Rogues with this origin feat can take the utilize action as a bonus action, which means they have a bonus action healing option that no other class or subclass in the game has access to. Granted, some classes and subclasses get healing word, but you know what I mean. But it gets even better when we remember that if we use this as a bonus action, we could still use the utilize action as our action. I'm saying those 2 words a lot this video. And either heal 2 creatures or heal 1 creature twice, assuming there are hit dice to go around. Whoever thought of a healer rogue? That's all for the roguish stuff, but there is another sort of in-depth category of items that I want to go over. There are a handful of items, namely acid, alchemist's fire, holy water, oil, and oddly enough, nets, that can be thrown as part of the attack action. We don't actually make an attack with these. We target a creature who then makes a dexterity saving throw. A creature within 20 feet of us, I should say, except for the net, which has a range of 15 feet. Why they didn't make that equivalent to the other thrown adventuring gear, I don't know. It is what it is. The DC for the saving throw is based on 8 plus our dexterity modifier plus our proficiency bonus, so rogues picking up another W, as well as monks and some fighters and rangers although any character can have a decent dexterity score. If the target fails their save, each item has its own set of effects. Alchemist Fire deals 1d4 fire damage and ignites the target, causing them to have the burning hazard pseudo condition, which makes them take an additional 1d4 damage at the start of each of their turns for 1 minute, until they take an action to stop, drop, and roll, go prone, and put the fire out on themselves. That is a PSA for all you out there if you're ever on fire. Stop, drop, and roll. The fire can also be put out in the normal ways, jumping into water or being heavily rained upon, or having the fire suffocated by finding yourself in an area without oxygen. An acid vial deals 2d6 acid damage to the target with no other effects, no lasting anything, and holy water does the same thing but 2d8 radiant, though only to fiends and undead. It has no effect at all against other creature types. Oil doesn't deal damage, but instead applies a sort of debuff where if the target takes any fire damage within the next minute, they take 5 additional fire damage. That's not a die roll, it's just a flat 5 bonus. That stacks really well with Alchemist Fire, or something like Wall of Fire or Create Bonfire, that have lasting fire damage over that same minute duration, because there's nothing in Oil's description that would suggest it goes away after that extra damage is dealt. It dries up after a minute, that's the only other qualifier. Ostensibly, it could be washed away if they were to submerge themselves in liquid or something, but that is up to your group to determine. That's not written in the rules. Nets, of course, apply the restrained condition until the target creature takes an action and succeeds at a DC 10 athletics check to escape, or the net is destroyed. It does have an armor class and HP values, immunity to psychic damage, that kind of thing. So that's also an option for the target to break free, or their allies to break them free. And I want to be very clear, we can't throw these as part of a bonus action that we might have from something like martial arts, or a reaction like an opportunity attack. It is specifically an attack we make with the attack action. We can replace one of our attacks with throwing one of these items. They don't specify once per turn though, so if we have extra attack and we want to throw 2 nets on 2 creatures and restrain them, that is an option. We could throw acid vials at 2 different creatures if we wanted to, but our own attacks are probably going to be more damaging at level 5 or 6 when we get extra attack anyway. These items do pretty good damage at low levels though. 2d6 is nothing to sneeze at when you're level 1 through 4. Neither is 2d8 to the appropriate creature types, nor is a d4 at the start of each turn. If you light, say, a hobgoblin with 11 HP on fire, it's only going to last a few rounds even if no one hits it, assuming it doesn't stop, drop, and roll. The problem with that is they are pretty expensive, especially for low-level adventurers. Acid and holy water are 25 gold pieces a pop, and Alchemist Fire doubles that at 50 per vial. Oil is cheap though, at only 1 silver piece per flask, and nets are only 1 gold piece and can be reused, assuming they're not destroyed. I appreciate that the use of these items has been clarified from their 2014 iterations. It's a little more clear now how they're used, and I like that. Will I use them often? No, probably not. But they are fun to give to players as like a, hey, here's a thing you can have in a belt pouch for a while until you decide to use it against a zombie. Or something. There's one last group of items that I think can really be helpful to have around on, if not every character, at least one in the party. Here we go. The bedroll item that comes in some of the packs mentioned earlier, but can also be purchased separately, of course. Make it so that if you find yourself in an environment of extreme cold, such as up on a glacier or high on a mountain, you ignore the effects of extreme cold while you're in the bedroll. You can sleep through the night without a risk of getting exhaustion, and that is huge. Blankets are similar, but lesser, in that they give advantage on saving throws against the effects of extreme cold, not an automatic success. Still very good to have on hand, especially since you could ostensibly wrap yourself in a blanket and walk, or perform simple tasks like standing guard or performing music, things like that. A block and tackle is a mathematical lifting device that uses ropes and pulleys to aid in the lifting of heavy objects. It quadruples your lifting capacity when you're using one. So if you have a very heavy slab of rock that you need to move to uncover the entrance to a dungeon, or if there's a statue that you want to put in your portable hole to be sold later, but it's too heavy for anyone in your party to just hoist, you can do it with a block and tackle. Costumes are clothing that make you look a certain way, like a certain person or a certain type of person, like you belong to a certain faction perhaps, and they give advantage on charisma checks to, or any check technically, to impersonate that person or type of person. In some cases, I could see a role not even being viable if you're not wearing the right clothes. That is up to your DM and your group, but per the player's handbook, if you have the proper costume, you have advantage. Crowbars give advantage on strength checks whenever you're trying to open a thing. It's going to be up to the DM whether you can apply a crowbar, wedge it in there and use it as a lever, but if you can, you get advantage. Ladders might be a little hard to carry around as they are 10 feet long, but they do allow easy climbing without an ability check up to their height. They do still take double movement to climb unless you have a climb speed or a feature like the athlete feat that lets you ignore that penalty. The humble magnifying glass gives you advantage whenever you're checking out a small or finely detailed object. Doesn't specify a skill, but things like investigation and perception would be appropriate. Maps give not advantage, but a +5 bonus to survival checks when you're trying to navigate your way through the area that is mapped. Perfume gives advantage on charisma checks, specifically persuasion checks, to influence an indifferent creature within 5 feet of you. That's kind of a long list of prerequisites, but when it comes up, I'm sure you'll be happy to have some around. It's not like it's very heavy or takes up very much space. A pole is 10 feet long and can be used to tap floorboards or interact with things from 10 feet away, but can also be used to pole vault, giving you advantage on athletics checks whenever you're doing a high or long jump and your DM asks for that kind of roll. And last, and one of my personal favorites, the Portable Ram. It gives a flat +4 bonus whenever we're trying to knock down a door with it. It also has a handle on it, so that a second creature can grab it and help us out, giving us advantage. Advantage and +4 is a lot. This item is indispensable if we don't have a dedicated strength party member, like a barbarian or certain fighters and most paladins, that kind of thing, or a druid who can turn into a bear. But even if we have a strength character in the party, having a +4 bonus is still huge. So those are the items that I would bring along to an adventure or make sure someone in my party had at least. But there are a few more things I want to touch on before I go, because again, my brain likes grouping items and they are kind of scattered around in alphabetical order. First, I want to touch on containers, objects that specifically exist to hold other objects. There are more of these than I had ever realized, so I'll be brief. Backpacks, the most common, I'm sure, as they come in almost all of those packs mentioned before. Backpacks can store up to 30 pounds or 1 cubic foot, whichever limit it hits first, of material, and they can also be used as saddlebags. The 2024 version of the game doesn't have specific saddlebag items, so we can use a backpack for that. Barrels hold up to 40 gallons of liquid, or 4 cubic feet of whatever. Baskets can hold up to 40 pounds, or 2 cubic feet. By the way, I'm picturing like a wicker basket, like with a lid, not like a picnic basket style. A glass bottle holds 1.5 pints, or 24 ounces, however you want to look at it. A bucket holds half a cubic foot. A crossbow bolt case holds 20 bolts. Figured I'd toss that in with the other containers while we're here. A map or scroll case can hold up to 10 sheets of paper or 5 sheets of parchment. I guess parchment is significantly thicker. I don't actually know much about parchment now that I think about it. A chest, one of the largest on the list, contains 12 cubic feet of stuff. A flask holds 1 pint, or 16 ounces for comparative purposes. An inkwell, or just ink as the player's handbook calls it, stores 1 ounce of liquid ink, which is enough for about 500 pages of writing. A jug contains 1 gallon of liquid, as does an iron pot for cooking. A pouch contains up to 6 pounds, or a fifth of a cubic foot of stuff. This is the sort of pouch you'd have on your belt, and it's also the default storage option when storing blowgun needles or sling bullets or firearm bullets, since they aren't attached to the smoke powder like real-world bullets are cased with gunpowder. So it's just the bullet. They're very small. A quiver holds 20 arrows, much like a bolt case holds 20 bolts, or a pouch holds 20 bullets or needles. A sack contains up to 30 pounds, or 1 cubic foot of stuff, much like a backpack, actually, just without the straps, I guess. A vial holds 4 ounces, which is a quarter of a pint if you're curious, and that's what potions tend to come in. And last, a water skin holds up to 4 pints, which is half a gallon. There are also a few consumables that I would group together if I were designing the UI for this section. Antitoxins give advantage on saving throws against poison for an hour. Potions of healing, of course, restore 2d4 plus 2 hit points. These are probably the most well-known item in here, now that I think about it. Basic poison deals 1d4 extra poison damage. Not really worth the 100 gold piece price tag in my opinion, but it's there as an option, and can be applied to either 1 hit from a weapon or 3 projectiles, ammunition from crossbows or bows, etc. I would also group the clothing together. Traveler's clothes and fine clothes are next to each other in the player's handbook, but there are also robes, and of course costumes, which I already covered earlier. And I would also group the light sources together. Candles have 5 feet of bright light, 5 feet of dim light, and last for an hour. They're very cheap. Torches burn with a bright light of 20 feet, and 20 feet of dim light beyond that, and also burn for 1 hour. They can also be used as a simple weapon to do 1 single point of fire damage. I guess they're not as sturdy as something like a club. Lamps are interesting because they burn with 15 feet of bright light and then 30 feet of dim light. They're the only light source in the player's handbook that has different values for those two things. All the other items and spells, to my knowledge, have equal amounts of bright and dim light. So that's interesting. They burn for 6 hours on a single flask of oil. Hooded lanterns also burn oil for the same duration and have 30 feet of bright light, 30 feet of dim light, although you can use a bonus action to raise or lower the hood. When the hood is lowered, it has only 5 feet of dim light and no bright light at all. A bullseye lantern is the real interesting one, because it has, instead of a radius of light, it has a cone of light out the front of it. 5e doesn't have facing rules, so it's gonna be a little up to your DM and your group how to work with that in a combat scenario. It's a little easier to describe when you're not locked to a strict timeline of events. You can sort of just decide where you're pointing it at any given moment. But it also has the farthest range of any light source, with 60 feet of bright light and 60 more feet of dim light beyond that. And considering that's a cone, that's a pretty huge area laterally as well. Of course, there are also spellcasting focuses and the component pouch, which all serve the same function but for different classes. And there are some miscellaneous items like the spyglass and mirror, which don't have specific effects listed but could still come up in roleplay and in dungeoneering in interesting ways if you allow them to be. Like a mirror can be used to look around a corner, because it's a mirror. A spyglass could be used to spy on people from a distance, because it's a spyglass. But they don't have mechanical effects listed. But that, in a nutshell, is pretty much how I would group these items, and a bit of thief rogue shenanigans, and rogue shenanigans in general, thrown in there to boot. That's how this video started, as I was looking at some rogue stuff, and there will be a build video incoming. But I wanted to make this video to help myself and other people group these items up, be more aware of what's available, because frankly I don't see people using a lot of this gear a lot, including myself, because looking through, and especially because it is arranged alphabetically, I think it's a little harder to know what all of our options are on that. So hopefully this video helps somebody. If not, even just going through these items with a fine-tooth comb has helped me organize them in my brain, so it's already a win. In any case, that's about all I have to say for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and buy lots of adventuring gear that you do not have the carrying capacity to drag around. Every party needs a bag of holding or a portable hole, am I right? If you watched all the way to the end, I appreciate you. If you didn't watch all the way to the end, that's fine too. Even though you're not seeing this, I still appreciate you. Remember that D&D is for everybody, and have fun adventuring in the rest of 2025, almost 2026. See ya.